In early 2025, trade tensions between the United States and Canada roared into high gear. Two industries at the very heart of North American life, dairy and automobiles, were suddenly on the front lines. Tariffs are surging, rhetoric is hardening, and both governments are digging in. From family farms in Quebec to assembly lines in Detroit, the impact is already visible, threatening stability, jobs, and even the future of cross-border integration. This isn't just a squabble over milk and cars. It's a deeper struggle about sovereignty, leverage, and how far Washington and Ottawa are willing to push each other. In today's video, we'll unpack Canada's defensive maneuvers, the U.S. counterpunch, and the ripple effects spreading into steel, autos, and beyond. Stay tuned, because the choices being made in 2025 could shape North American trade for years to come. One trade war on the starting line. Tariffs and dairy in the crosshairs. In August 2025, President Donald Trump escalated his trade fight with Canada by hiking tariffs on non-U.S. imports from 25% to 35%. Officially, the move was tied to fentanyl trafficking, but everyone saw the real target: Canada's fiercely defended dairy system. For decades, supply management has limited U.S. access to the Canadian dairy market. The cap is strict, just 3.5%. Push past that and tariffs explode. 241% on milk, nearly 300% on butter. To U.S. farmers who already sell roughly $800 million in dairy north of the border every year, it feels like a padlocked gate. Trump's message was blunt: open the Canadian market wider or face tariffs spilling into other industries. Ottawa fired back, pointing out that Canada accounts for only about 1% of U.S. fentanyl imports and has been actively policing its borders. But Washington wasn't backing down. By August 1st, tariffs were already hammering Canadian lumber, steel, aluminum, and auto parts. What began as a dispute over dairy had quickly snowballed into a much larger battle over economic sovereignty. And yet, Canada wasn't going to sit idle. Ottawa prepared a legislative shield to protect its farmers, one that would hardwire protectionism directly into law. If you found this video insightful, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. Stay tuned for more updates and content. We've got plenty more coming your way. To Canada's counter-move, Bill C-202 in the Dairy Fortress. In June 2025, before the tariff hikes even took effect, Ottawa rolled out Bill C-202. The law barred supply-managed industries, dairy, eggs, and poultry, from ever being used as bargaining chips in trade negotiations. The timing was strategic. With pressure mounting from Washington, the Trudeau-era concessions were gone. Instead, Canada was welding the farm gate shut. For farmers in Quebec and Ontario, it wasn't just policy, it was reassurance. Supply management isn't just about milk prices, it stabilizes entire rural economies. By fixing quotas and supporting price floors, it shields small and mid-sized farms from being bulldozed by U.S. agribusiness. Without it, loans would dry up, equipment purchases would collapse, and entire towns could become hollowed-out shells of bankrupt farms. Mark Carney's government framed Bill C-202 as an existential safeguard, but not everyone agreed. Critics warned that by hard-coding protectionism, Canada was reducing its flexibility in trade talks and inviting harsher retaliation from Washington. Beef and grain exporters, who operate outside supply management, feared they might become collateral damage. Still, Ottawa's message was unmistakable. It would endure tariffs on steel, autos, even lumber, but dairy was untouchable. Whether this stance strengthens Canada's bargaining power or backs it into a corner remains an open question. And while Ottawa dug in its heels, the storm over dairy was spilling directly into Detroit's auto industry. 3 ripples in Detroit: steel, supply chains, and auto fallout. If dairy is symbolic, steel and autos are about survival. And Trump's 50% tariffs on Canadian metals since June 2025 hit Detroit like a sledgehammer. The numbers are stark. General Motors reported a $1 billion profit drop in Q2 alone. Stellantis saw $2.7 billion in losses in the first half of the year. Analysts say Ford is facing similar pain. The timing couldn't be worse, with automakers already stretched thin by multi-billion-dollar investments into EVs, autonomous technology, and global platform shifts. Consider the Ford F-Series, the best-selling truck in America. It depends heavily on Quebec aluminum. With tariffs inflating costs, industry-wide expenses could rise by as much as $108 billion in 2025. Consumers will feel the hit too. Vehicle prices could jump by $9,000 or more. And here's the irony. Even made-in-America cars depend on Canadian subcomponents. The tariffs now tax those parts twice, eroding margins, discouraging investment, and slowing output. Beyond corporate losses, Detroit's factories support hundreds of thousands of jobs. Layoffs ripple through small businesses across Michigan. Critics argue that tariffs meant to protect American industry are instead undermining the very communities Trump claims to defend. But while Detroit buckled, Canada adjusted its strategy, mixing hard defense with tactical flexibility. 4. Diplomacy in motion, rollbacks, leverage, and the USMCA card. By late August, Ottawa shifted gears toward pragmatism. Prime Minister Mark Carney announced a rollback of many retaliatory tariffs, covering goods like orange juice, apparel, and appliances. The move aligned Canada with exemptions the U.S. had already granted under the USMCA, restoring tariff-free trade on over 85% of cross-border commerce. For consumers and manufacturers, it was a relief, but not everyone applauded. Unifor, Canada's largest private sector union, slammed the rollback as capitulation. Opposition leader Pierre Poilievre accused Ottawa of giving ground without winning any concessions. Carney pushed back. He argued that harmonizing exemptions preserved access for Canadian industries while keeping trade flowing ahead of the 2026 USMCA review. In his words, partial stability is better than risking collapse. This is where the USMCA's dual role comes into focus. It's both a shield and a bargaining chip. With 3/4 of Canada's exports tied to U.S. demand and Washington still reliant on Canadian energy, minerals, and manufacturing, Ottawa is betting that time is on its side. The rollback wasn't surrender. It was a tactical pit stop, gambling that U.S. pressure will boomerang hardest against Detroit. 5. Canada's playbook: protect, pivot, and cool the engine. Canada's strategy isn't just reactive, it's layered across 3 lanes: defend, diversify, and de-escalate. On defense, Bill C-202 locks supply management into law, shielding dairy, eggs, and poultry from external pressure. If you found this video insightful, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. Stay tuned for more updates and content. We've got plenty more coming your way. Ottawa has also pledged subsidies to help farmers ride out volatility, while extending support to steel and auto suppliers retooling for domestic buyers. On diversification, Canada is pushing exports toward Europe and Asia. The EU Trade Pact and the Pacific CP deal offer wider markets, reducing dependence on one customer, a weakness Trump's tariffs exposed. On de-escalation, Carney's selective rollback of retaliatory tariffs helped calm tensions, boosting consumer confidence and projecting Canada as the adult in the room. It left dialogue open with Washington while maintaining credibility with allies. Risks still loom large, especially the 2026 USMCA review. Trump has already shown he's willing to link trade disputes to unrelated issues like border security and narcotics. But for now, farmland values and quota prices are climbing, a sign of resilience in Canada's heartland. Verdict: resilience versus risk. Who wins this round? Canada's response to the 2025 trade standoff has been deliberate and steady. With Bill C-202, it locked down supply management, shielding dairy, poultry, and eggs from Washington's reach. With selective tariff rollbacks, it restored tariff-free trade on most goods while aligning with USMCA rules. South of the border, however, the picture looks more turbulent. Tariffs on autos and metals are straining supply chains, inflating costs, and squeezing Detroit's automakers. Instead of protecting American industry, critics warn the tariffs may simply saddle consumers with higher prices and weaken the very communities Trump vowed to protect. Ultimately, Canada's blend of legal safeguards, pragmatic diplomacy, and strategic diversification shows how smaller economies can withstand a heavyweight trade fight. But the bigger question remains: has Ottawa bought enough breathing room, or is Washington playing a riskier, longer game? If you found this video insightful, Don't forget to hit that subscribe button. Stay tuned for more updates and content. We've got plenty more coming your way.